Welcome, everyone. Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us for another ATP Ride Report webinar session. My name is Ashley Pilon. I oversee airline and corporate partnerships and alumni services for ATP. And today I'm really excited because we are joined by Brian diLorenzo. He's a pilot recruiter with Piedmont Airlines, and he's going to be talking today about some of the different opportunities with their cadet program. And then if any of you are interested in applying and are pretty close to reaching ATP minimums as a first officer, we're really excited to have him here today. So Brian, thanks for joining us. Awesome. And so before we get started, guys, just a few reminders. So your microphones are going to be muted for the duration of this session. And if you need to communicate with us, if you can't hear us or need us to repeat anything, just go ahead and put that in the chat box in the lower right-hand corner. And then at the end of the session, we will leave time for a viewer Q&A. So go ahead and put any questions you have for Brian there, and we'll get to them towards the end of the session. So for this week, we do want to just find out how many of you are obviously you're interested potentially in Piedmont if you're here. So go ahead and just let us know which of these situations applies to you. If you're interested in becoming a Piedmont cadet and wanting to learn more info. Okay, so we have some that are some that are already a cadet, interested in applying as a first officer, and then a couple that were other. So if you're other, let us know in the chat what you're here for, and maybe just interested in getting some more information.
How do we do number-wise, all right?
Yes, all right. Looks like right now we have, I'll go ahead and share this with you guys. So it looks like most of you are interested in becoming a cadet. Looks like 18 of you are interested in learning more about that. Looks like we have 2 of you that are joining us that are a cadet, and there's 7 of you that are interested in applying as a first officer, and then some others. So if you have questions, those of you that voted other, please let us know what that interest is. So go ahead and stop sharing that.
I don't think it's fair. It wouldn't let me vote.
Oh, you know what? Sometimes you wouldn't be able to vote for it. Oh, hey, and it looks like we have a couple of recruiters that are tuning in, so they wanted to vote as well. So thanks for that, Cheyenne. Awesome. So thank you for submitting those answers. So today I'm actually excited, guys. We do have a presentation, so I'm going to go ahead and get the slides pulled up. And while I'm doing that, Brian, if you can go ahead and just share with us a little bit more about your background and how long you've been a recruiter with Piedmont.
Sure, great. All right, thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for participating. We really appreciate you taking the time to join us, and we'll get all your questions answered by the end of the session. So again, as she stated, just get those in chat and we'll get those answered for you. So a little bit about myself. Actually, aviation is my second career, so I didn't start out, although I always love hearing the stories when you're a little kid and you go to the airport and you watch the planes and you just know you want to do that someday. I was one of those guys, used to just go to the local airport and just knew that's what I wanted to do, but my career kind of took me in a different direction. So I wasn't a professional pilot from the start, so I did another career, and I actually, in the meantime, I was getting down to the local airport and taking lessons and just trying to build time up, got my private, ended up getting really addicted to it and just kept getting all kinds of ratings and couldn't stop. Actually did my multi at ATP in Richmond. I remember those days going down there and doing that, and also did some training in Trenton at the Trenton site as well. So I have been a commercial pilot since 2008. I fly for a Part 135 company in upstate New York. So I don't fly for Piedmont, but I am a full-time pilot recruiter for Piedmont. Again, I do have all my ratings, and been with Piedmont since 2018. I still continue to fly for the 135 company in New York, so that keeps me pretty current. I also have my own little Cessna that I buzz around in, so that's a lot of fun. So I stay current, stay instrument proficient. Instrument flying is my favorite thing to do. There's nothing like being in heavy IFR conditions and just having to get it right. So it's a good challenge. I love doing that. But recruiting has been great for me. It gives me a great opportunity to visit a lot of schools, meet a lot of new and young aviators, and I found that's kind of my passion. I love talking to new pilots. One of my favorite things to do is even talk to high school students. They're just starting out, but really enjoy that. So that's where I'm at today. So again, thanks for having me, and we appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you. Thanks for joining us. So the first thing that we're going to talk about, and it seems like this applies to a lot of you, is for some of our viewers that are a little bit earlier on, can you just share with us, for those that are beginning their professional aviation career, and just tell us a little bit more about Piedmont Airlines and their pilot group and fleet?
Sure, be happy to do that. Happy to share the information. So, Piedmont Airlines, if you've done any research or know anything about Piedmont, you know that we're one of the three wholly owns of American Airlines. So, out of the three wholly owns, we do have the smallest pilot group out of the three, but we have a ton of employees all around the country. So, we have over 10,000 employees in our company. We have we do an awful lot of ground handling and customer service for American Airlines. We have customer service locations all over the country, all the way out to the West Coast, Anchorage, Alaska. So we have over 8,000 of those 10,000 are ground support team members. Again, we do have the smallest pilot group, somewhere around 700, 750 pilots is where we're at. We have 400 aircraft maintenance technicians and 380 flight attendants. So again, although we have the smallest pilot group, which we'll get into a little bit more how that can actually benefit you, being in the smaller pilot group, we do have a very large group of employees. We fly one type of jet, so you don't have to do any bidding for what type of jet you want to fly. We have all the Embraer 145 jets, and we have a fleet of 60 of those currently, and that's what we do. And obviously our job as part of the American Airlines network is we fly from all those smaller outstations into the American Airlines hub. So we're proud of the fact that we're part of a big network. It's a really important role for us. We know that, grandma and grandpa are at their hometown trying to get to Paris or London or something like that. We're an integral part of that. We have to get to their little airport and get them to the American hubs. That's how the network works. And we're a very good performing airline. We do very well. The 145 service well. The 50 passengers on the 145s. And again, being part of that network is huge for us. It's makes us proud to be able to participate in that. And again, the wholly owned, I'll talk a little bit more about that, but what does that do for us? Really, really important as a young aviator as you're starting out. That wholly owned is a really important term. It gives us a lot of backing. We're wholly owned by the largest airline in the world. That's huge. You may have seen, especially during these times with the pandemic going on, a lot of airlines have been struggling. Some have even had to close the doors. We're not in that situation. We do no contract flying for anybody else. All of our flying is through American because we're owned by American. And so we go as American Airlines go. And American Airlines, even in times like this, stable company, not going anywhere. And so that gives us a really good backing, real good foundation. So financial stability is really, really important during these times. And also the benefits. Being part of the American Airlines network is huge. You get to take advantage of all those benefits that come with being part of American. And probably the biggest thing with being a wholly owned is for your career progression. We'll talk a little bit about the flow and how that works here as part of the American Airlines network. It's an automatic flow. You may see somewhere down the road, some airlines may offer flows and they may offer real fast flows, but when you start reading the small print of what a flow actually is, they may guarantee you an interview at one of the larger airlines. Whereas with us, once you're part of Piedmont, you're guaranteed a job at American. So when you think about the whole career progression, that's huge. Your interview to get to Piedmont could be the last interview you have to do for your entire aviation career. So that's huge. So that wholly owned is a real good thing to keep in mind. And I think we'll talk a little bit about that a little bit further down the road here in the next few slides. But yeah, that's where we're at today. Again, that's kind of a role in the network. That's what we fly. Something else I would spend just a couple minutes on is just talking about the culture at Piedmont. We really pride ourselves on the culture because we are smaller pilot group, smaller employee group. The culture at Piedmont is really, really extremely important to us. We're very family oriented. You get to know in the training department, you walk through the training department, you see the director of training, you chat with them, all the way up to the president and CEO, Lyle Hogg. very proud of him. Great guy. Great guy to work for. He's one of those guys that'll come and talk to you. He'll know your first name, and he'll sit and talk aviation with you all day long. So that family culture at Piedmont is extremely important to us. We really thrive on that.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, I think the next question, since we do have so many viewers that are a little bit earlier on in their career, would just be, can you share on what some of your bases are?
Sure. So we're an East Coast based airline. Like I said, we have customer service locations all over the country, but as a pilot, you'll be East Coast based. So we have 2 crew bases. They are, and this is kind of another advantage of the wholly owned. You theoretically could end up at a Piedmont base and jump right into American and not have to ever change that base, because these are American bases as well. So that's another huge benefit. May not seem like a lot right now to you, because you think, well, I can travel anywhere I have to travel. But once you start getting a little more established and you're living in base, or you're comfortable in base, that makes it a real easy transition if you can stay right in base. But we do have 2 crew bases currently in Philadelphia and Charlotte. Philadelphia is our most junior crew base right now, but you are able, it's all seniority based, you are able to put in for Charlotte, and you could be based in Charlotte as well. Our maintenance locations are also on the East Coast. We have 7 of them all up and down the East Coast. And again, we fly into Canada, we fly to Alabama, we fly out to Milwaukee. So we do go a little bit west, but generally up and down the East Coast. And I think we'll give you a route location here in a little bit. And we also do, and these numbers are kind of pre-pandemic. We know we'll be back to this, 400 flights per day, over 55 locations up and down the East Coast.
And you briefly touched on this, but we will go ahead and we'll show everyone, and I'll move us over for a little bit. This is the route network. So
yeah, and I know as new aviators, that's pretty cool to look at, like where you might be able to have an opportunity to go and stay overnight and check out the city. So yeah, like I said, pretty much up and down the East Coast. But a lot of those are smaller bases, smaller crew bases, or smaller outstations that we fly to. And typically the way our day goes is we'll start in the hubs, and then we'll go out to the outer stations, and we kind of go back and forth throughout the day, and then we'll leave an aircraft overnight at at one of the outstations. And then that aircraft would be the early morning flight back into the crew bases. Again, for people trying to get from these smaller airports to international hubs even.
So if you guys are interested and definitely want to stay on the East Coast, this is definitely something to consider. All right. And we did obviously touch on this a little bit ago, but because you are a wholly owned of American Airlines, really one of the benefits right now is just the fact that there is that flow through and that guarantee. Can you speak to why maybe this is especially beneficial in the current situation that we're in presently experiencing with coronavirus?
Sure. I touched on that a little bit, kind of the foundation, the stability of it. Something to keep in mind, we're all kind of going through it. It seems like a really troubling time right now for the airline industry. There's a study out there, I think it's the University of North Dakota did a study, and they kind of broke down the whole airline industry over history. And if you look at that, right now it doesn't seem that this is the case, but this is a bump in the road. Just like 9/11 was a bump in the road, it's a bump in the road. The airline industry will be back. We're seeing it start to come back already. So you have to kind of think big picture. And again, that's kind of difficult to do when you're at 500 hours or 400 hours or just starting out. You just think, where's this industry going? It's not going to be good. It will be fine. We all know that. Everything points to it will be fine. And in this industry, it's really about security, just doing your career progression where you're able to progress all the way through and you have good, secure things waiting for you. So this flow that we offer here at Piedmont to American Airlines is huge. It doesn't get any better career progression than that, really. It's seniority based, so it literally is you check a box whether you want to go to American or not. Again, we have a smaller pilot group, so our flow is the fastest flow. Pre-pandemic, our pilots were flowing in about 5 to 6 years, which is just unbelievable if you think about that. So you get on Piedmont, and 6 years you're going to be flying for American. I mean, from a career progression standpoint, it doesn't get any better than that. So it's seniority based. It's a matter of them just getting to your seniority number, and you're afforded an opportunity to go to American Airlines. There's no additional interview. So as you're out, and you should do your research, what airline you want to end up at, you definitely should do your research, but make sure you're reading exactly what that flow, make sure you're comparing apples with apples, because flow, anybody can throw that out there. What is a flow? The flow is a major airline will look at you. They'll bring you in and interview you. All right. You're not going to have to do that if you come to Piedmont. You do not have to re-interview. The other thing along those lines too, we also welcome you to apply outside the flow. We have a lot of pilots that do that. You can come to Piedmont. The day you come to Piedmont, put in an application to American, United, anywhere you want to go, even American. American Airlines takes a lot of Piedmont pilots outside the flow. So that's huge. I'll tell you a quick story. Some of our pilots, Piedmont pilots, were on a hotel van going to American Airlines to interview. Whole van full of people interviewing. They went and did the interview. Nobody in the van got selected for American Airlines, so they were driving back to the hotel, and the pilots on the van that were not Piedmont pilots and did not have that backup plan were just distraught. You know, I lost the opportunity isn't there to get to American. That's really what I wanted to do. And our guys were kind of sitting there like, well, we're still going to go. We just have to wait a little while to go. So, you know, it's all about that security. So that's kind of a good story to put in context of how that can make you feel. You know, kind of a little bit more laid back about getting to American outside the flow. If you get an opportunity, you definitely should take advantage of that. And we don't hold that against anybody to apply outside the flow either. You know, we encourage you to do that.
We actually had a graduate that I ran into in DFW, and he saw the ATP polo, and he came up and he said, I just wanted to let you know, I just got hired by American today. This was probably mid last year, and he was really excited. He was with Piedmont, and he did it outside the flow. So it's definitely an opportunity that I think people don't even realize is there, but you are, people are successful in doing that.
Yeah, we were, pre-pandemic when America was doing all that hiring. Obviously, things kind of on hold right now. We were losing automatically through the flow six pilots to every American Airlines class. So we were losing 6 automatically going, but we were losing a total of about 13 to 15 pilots. So there were twice as many going outside the flow. So we welcome that. You don't have to walk around and pretend that you didn't apply to American. We know that most Piedmont pilots do apply to American outside the flow, and we're okay with that. But again, the flow, can't talk enough about the flow and how, from a career progression standpoint and security, that's huge. So the flow is really a self-recruiting thing here at Piedmont because we do have the fastest flow, and there's no additional interview. You know, we'll do the interview with you here at Piedmont, and you'll have everything you need to get to American. And just as a little added bonus there, that $18,000, we don't want to skip by that. So you'll get, once you sign on as a first officer at Piedmont, we'll give you $18,000. So we'll give you $10,000 at the completion of your training, successful training, and we'll give you an additional $8,000 at the end of 1 year. One other thing I want to touch on, I don't think I have it in the slide here, is something we call seniority protection. So if you, through the flow, you end up going to American Airlines. If for whatever reason you're not successful in that American Airlines training, it doesn't happen very often. I know one particular case where one of our pilots got into American Airlines training and he had a family emergency, so he wasn't able to complete that training at American. So he came back to Piedmont, and we'll keep your seniority number for you at Piedmont until you have a seniority number at American. So he came back to Piedmont, kept his seniority number. He was still at the top of the list for the flow and was able to flow again. He was in good standing with everybody. He left the training in good standing. So it made a huge difference. And again, it's all about really, it's really all about job security here in this industry. So that's huge.
Awesome. And then we definitely will get into a little bit more about this cadet bonuses. I see there's a couple of questions coming in with that in the cadet program a little bit later, but just so you guys are able to see, there are pathways as well that you can take advantage of a little bit earlier on. But before we get to that, Brian, can you just walk us through maybe some of the benefits that pilots have, flying for Piedmont?
Sure. So again, family culture, we know that time off is important for you. The work-life balance is extremely important. So we'll give you 11 days off per month guaranteed. So no matter how junior you are in a company, you'll find in the airline industry, everything is seniority based. So when you're bidding your lines, your trips, and when you're going to work, that's all seniority based. So here you are, a new pilot starting out. You just think you're going to get the bottom of the barrel as far as trips go and not going to have any days off. The worst you can do at Piedmont is 11 days off. That's the worst line we have out there. Doesn't seem like a whole lot kind of when you look at it in a slide, 11 days off. But if you think you're working a 9 to 5, Monday through Friday type job, 4 weeks in a calendar month, 2 days off a week, you're still talking 8, 9, maybe 10 days off a month. So 11 days off per month really isn't that bad. That's right about where you normally would be. Now, I'd be lying if I said you're going to get every Saturday and Sunday off. That wouldn't be a fact. But again, it's all bidding. So you can kind of, if you have a family event or something you need to go to, you can kind of bid around those days and get those days off. 11 days off, really not too bad. 42 hours paid sick leave per year. Your vacation days, again, this is something we put on slides and it just looks horrible. I know when I came to Piedmont, I was about 4 weeks, 5 weeks off in my other job. And I thought 5 vacation days a year, that's horrible. But we have a thing called trip touching. So if you're on a 4-day trip and you burn one of those vacation days, we'll automatically drop the rest of that trip for you. So those 5 paid vacation days actually turn into be 5 trips. And our trips are typically 3 or 4 days. So you're talking nearly 5 weeks just by having 5 days. And 10 paid vacation days in your second year. A couple of things we like to talk about, and I know as young aviators, this stuff doesn't really matter to you much at this point, perhaps, depending on your individual situation, but we have great medical, dental, and vision plans. Those plans are through the Aetna network, which the Aetna network, if you know anything about that, or you research medical or dental benefits at all, that's a huge network that's nationwide. So it's really easy. And if you've been down this road, you know, if you can find an in-service provider, just how much easier that is to do. You can just kind of show up, co-payments are less, they can do all kinds of direct billing. There's not a lot of paperwork with that. So finding a provider in a particular network really benefits you. And we use a very widespread network. And the reason we do that is because we do have pilots all over the country. Although we have those 2 crew bases, we do have commuters. They're all over the country. So families, Piedmont families are all over the country. And so having a great health and dental and vision package is certainly important to us and our employees' families as well.
Thank you. And I think this is something that we haven't actually gone over in any of our webinars yet. So can you discuss for our viewers today just what starting compensation is as a pilot for Piedmont?
Sure. So our first officer compensation, your first year is 50/50. That's per block hour when you're flying, and 52/11 the second year. And if you do any type of research with these numbers, and we're not afraid to throw these numbers out there to you, we'll give them to you right up front because they're extremely competitive. We're very near the top of, if we aren't at the top, I mean, I don't keep up with them daily, so I don't know, maybe somebody got a little bit more of a pay raise, but it's certainly in the top tier of what you'll make as a regional pilot for sure. So we're proud of those numbers. And also, if you've kept track of the industry at all, I know when I came on just 2 years ago, I think the first officer pay was $38, something along those lines. So they've come up pretty substantial. So that's not bad pay at all. And again, we have some minimum time. So no matter how many hours you're actually flying, if you're awarded a line that you're only scheduled to fly 60 hours in a particular month, we do have a 75-month hour minimum that you'll get paid for. So even though you may be scheduled to fly for 60 hours a month, you're still going to get paid for that 75. So you can figure out what your monthly pay is going to be. Worst case scenario is 75 hours a month. So those numbers are good. It's a good salary for regional. Again, if you've kept track of it at all, you know that it's come around substantially, as it should. And again, we're proud of those numbers. You also have the opportunity to upgrade to captain, and you can see the jump there is pretty substantial. So as a first-year captain, 76.76, and as a second-year captain, 78.63. Something to go along with that to upgrade. There are airlines out there that will force you to upgrade when you get a certain amount of time. They just say we need captains, so you're going to be a captain. We don't do that. We do not force upgrades. We want it to kind of be a mutual agreement. Obviously, we want you to be capable of being a captain, but we also want you to be kind of mentally ready to be a captain. You know, that's a big responsibility. So we don't force those upgrades. Again, it's kind of a mutual agreement, and it is seniority based. So as we need captains, we'll go down through the first officers and see which ones want to upgrade and which ones are ready to upgrade. There are some regulations as far as when you can upgrade. So if you meet those time requirements, and you're looking to upgrade and make that extra money, that's pretty good when you're talking $70-some an hour. And that's just for your flight time. We also offer a per diem. So you get $1.70 per hour while you're on your trip, and that's 24 hours a day while you're on your trip. So that doesn't seem like a lot either, $1.70. But if you're on a 4-day trip and you're getting that 24 hours a day, that's some good extra cash. The referral bonus I have on there, that's actually on hold right now, but I'll just tell you about that, what it was, and they may come back. It's a good extra opportunity to make some extra money. If you do refer a fellow pilot and they're successful through training, we were given $5,000 for each referral. So again, they are on hold right now, so I don't want you to get the impression that that would be occurring right now. But good possibility they'll come back. It'll just kind of depend on how we're doing number-wise. So again, good extra cash for you.
Perfect. Yeah, that per diem, it does add up to the coffees you'll need for if you have early morning shows.
I always say with a per diem, it's kind of neat when you're sleeping in a hotel and even when you're rolling over going to sleep, it's only $1.70, but you're making money.
Perfect. Well, the next thing that we'd like to talk about is for those of our viewers that are a little bit lower on the time range right now that may be looking to get involved prior to reaching ATP minimums. So can you just tell us, briefly, and we'll get into the details, but what the different options are?
Yeah, so the best program that we have for the low time hours pilots is our cadet program. So with the cadet program, you need 500 hours to become part of the cadet program. But the big thing on this slide is kind of like what I talked about. It's almost mind-boggling to think, if you just read that, from 500 hours to American Airlines. That's kind of crazy to think about. You can interview at Piedmont with 500 hours, you become a member of the cadet program, automatically you're transitioned into first officer spot. You don't have to re-interview for that first officer spot, and automatically you transfer to American Airlines. You don't have to re-interview for American Airlines. So you could be doing your American Airlines interview at 500 hours. There's a lot to be said about that.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And with that, we'll maybe, can you talk about just what the minimum qualifications are to become a cadet and who's eligible to apply?
Sure, I'd be happy to. Our cadet program, again, we're very proud of the cadet program. We've made some recent changes to it. But the minimum qualifications to get into the cadet program, you need to have a commercial multi-engine. You can interview at 400 hours, and you have to have 500 hours to start. So actually, when I said from 500 hours to American Airlines, it's actually more like 400 hours, because you get your interview out of the way. You may have to build a little bit more time. I spoke to somebody on the phone this morning that had 460, so we're getting ready to get him set for an interview, and he'll get that 500 hours, and he'll be able to transition right into the cadet program. Be at least 300 hours away from the ATP. It's a little bit hard to understand that, perhaps. So if you need your 1,500 to reach your ATP minimums, and you're at 1,400 hours, you would not be eligible for the cadet program. And the reason we don't want you too close to your ATP minimum. And the reason we do that is because the cadet program is designed for time building. And if you're really not in a position where you need to build more than 300 hours, then that's not really what the program is designed for. So you wouldn't be eligible for the cadet program. I think I mentioned you get full travel benefits with the cadet program as well. So that's huge. Pretty neat that you can get into cadet program at 500 hours and be traveling all over the place while you're building time. You do need a first class medical. No criminal record, and no FAA violations. That's the minimums to get into the cadet program.
And guys, so if we have any viewers on right now that are students that maybe you're planning on, you live somewhere where you're at a training center now and you want to head back home, I do want to highlight for those of you that are, or either maybe are alumni that are instructing elsewhere, or if you're a student and you're wanting to go back home, and home is a location where we do not have a training center, so you're looking to instruct potentially elsewhere, you are still eligible to apply for the Piedmont Cadet program, and you can be building time that way, or correct me if I'm wrong, but also, you could fly skydivers or tow banners. That's all options for you, correct?
Yeah, great, Ashley. I'm glad you brought that up, because I didn't really touch on the benefits of the cadet program too much. So that's kind of the big thing with our cadet program, where it's not all across the industry like that. We really don't care where you're building time. you know, when I talk to cadets, I try and encourage them to build the right time because, you know, you could go out VFR and punch holes in the sky all day, but you may not be getting the experience that is necessarily good for you. So we want you to gain lots of experience, but we understand their individual needs and individual opportunities. So we really don't, you do not have to instruct at a partner school necessarily. Again, you know, ATP is a great partner for us. So the instructors that come out of ATP, great experience, great opportunity to do that. If you are given an opportunity to do that, that's a great way to go. But if for whatever reason, like Ashley mentioned, maybe individual needs or something where you're not able to do that, you could go work at a Part 61 school, instruct. You could fly skydivers. You could get a job in a charter company if you so desired. Any job opportunity that you have to build time, that will work for us. We do track our cadets every month. We want them to send their hours in. We don't want people in the cadet program that are not building hours. That's not what it's designed for. So we do want you to build time. We're a little bit easing off the requirements right now with that because we know what's going on and it's difficult to build time. So we constantly get calls from our current cadets that are a little bit stressed that they're not getting the time, and we're really not holding their feet to the fire with that right now because we understand what's going on. So we're pretty flexible with that. But again, we do want you building time, and you can build time however you want. And again, with the travel benefits, that's relatively recent with us. I think it's just coming up on a year that we've included travel benefits with the cadet program. So when you come on as a cadet, you'll actually get an American Airlines ID, and you'll have access to the travel website, and you can do all kinds of non-revving travel, and that includes your family and friends. And so your family will love you much more as a Piedmont cadet, I'm sure. So great benefit package with being part of the cadet program, and you're getting paid while you're doing that. And I think we'll go over some of the numbers now as far as the payment.
Sure.
So, yeah. Did you any questions initially, Ashley, or you want me to just go over the slide?
Oh, you can go right ahead because I was just going to ask if you could discuss the breakdowns.
I'll do it. All right. So you saw that the first officer sign-on bonus was $18,000. We actually pay our cadets more to come on as a cadet, so it's a great deal. So once you interview for the cadet program and you have a successful interview, you'll do some paperwork with us, and then you'll receive $7,500 up front. And again, this is all designed to help you build time. So you can use that $7,500 to help you build time or pay back some tuition if you've so had to take out loans or that kind of stuff. You can use that money to help you build time. Additionally, we'll give you $5,000 while you're building time, and we'll pay that out every 100 hours. So again, like I said, the cadets every month report their hours to us, and every 100-hour mark that they hit, getting closer to their ATP minimums, we'll give them a portion of that $5,000. So what we do is we divide up that $5,000 depending on how much time you need. So how much you get every 100 hours will depend on how much time you need to build to get to your ATP minimums. And then you get an additional $5,000 after your training at Piedmont. Once you're in the first officer class and you're training, when that training is complete, you'll get $5,000, and then $8,000 after 1 year as a first officer. So it's similar to the first officer bonus, but that $7,500 is just kind of extra money for the cadet program. It's kind of a kickstart to get you going so you can build that time. Not a bad amount of cash to have in your account when you're trying to build some time. So the total package is $25,500 for cadet. So great plan, great opportunity to build time.
Awesome. And so also, you have another program outside of the cadet program that is there to mentor pilots that maybe aren't at the time requirement yet to be eligible for the cadet program. So can you talk a little bit about the ambassador program?
Yeah, for our ambassador program, very proud of this program as well. We have a lot of active ambassadors. And what does it mean when you become an ambassador? Well, it kind of gets your foot in the door. In this industry, it is about networking and being prepared. And so anybody can really join up for an ambassador. If you have an interest in aviation, you have an interest in Piedmont, you can sign up for the ambassador program. We have monthly calls with the ambassadors. We have the ambassadors divided into regions, and we have regional leaders. We take them to recruiting events. If we have an event at a particular location, we'll reach out to the ambassadors. They can come and help us recruit and kind of speak about Piedmont. We'll give you all the information you need. We give we have the best swag in the industry. I don't know if everybody knows that, but we do. And so ambassadors get lots of swag. We'll give you all that swag so you're armed to get out there to help promote Piedmont. We do have ambassador days. So we'll have, and they're kind of located all over. Right now, we've had to kind of put things on hold, obviously. But we'll do things like take all the ambassadors to the American Airlines Training Center in North Carolina, let them tour the facility, have an ambassador day, give out awards. We do other things like we'll take them to our headquarters in Salisbury or even down to the American Airlines Center in Dallas. We've done that as well with them. Get an opportunity to crawl around the jets, hang out in the hangars, and just be part of Piedmont. And the networking is huge as well. So I'm actually coordinating the ambassador program. So what we've been doing during this downtime is we're trying to work on how to build resumes and interview prep and that kind of stuff. So we're trying to work with the ambassadors as much as we can to get them prepared. We also, as an ambassador, will give you a electronic logbook, which is very important as a new aviator to have that nice, neat, organized logbook. So we'll provide the resources for that. We will give reference letters. There are scholarships available. And again, there's really no requirement, like you don't have to have a certain number of hours. My assistant coordinator is an ambassador, and he's actually a high school student who is still working on his private. So you can see you can be everywhere in between. You can just have an interest in aviation, or you can be actually building time coming to Piedmont. But again, the ambassador program is just kind of an opportunity for us to get to know you, for you to participate with Piedmont and be part of the Piedmont family. And my email is there, Ashley, on the slide. Again, I coordinate the ambassador program. So if you are interested in the ambassador program, just reach out to me. Real easy to do. We'll have you do a resume. We do have a information sheet where we just kind of see where you're from, what you're doing, and then we'll invite you to those conference calls, and you come on and we'll introduce you to the other ambassadors. And a lot of them will just talk kind of amongst themselves and say, hey, how you building time? What are you doing? And so that networking is really important. So the ambassador program is a great thing to join. If you don't have the time yet, we'd be happy to have you.
Thank you. And I do see that we have a lot of questions that are coming in from our viewers, so we'll get to those in a second. But if anyone's tuned into our webinars before, you know that our last question is always just if you had one piece of advice to share with our viewers today, Brian, either about being successful in the interview or just aviation in general, what would that be?
Great. Yeah, I could give you a few. So the biggest one I kind of touched on, it really is don't get discouraged. Keep your nose to the grindstone. You're getting in a good industry. It doesn't seem it right now. There's a lot of doom and gloom where it seems like things are not going to do well for the airline industry. You just need to keep your chin up, keep your nose to the grindstone, and keep working away. Keep track of the news. I check the TSA travel website every day, and you can see the numbers are starting to come back. So we're gonna be okay. I can, if I could put my arms around all of you and tell you that, that's what we need to encourage one another and let one another know that we're gonna be okay. Couple pieces of advice that I typically will give to young aviators starting out, and how to kind of prep yourself now. One of the most important things you can think about are training concerns, right? That's one of the first things we look at when we start looking at applications. Excuse me. Do we have training concerns? Has this particular person had problems meeting different check rides? So my advice with that is don't rush yourself through, right? Try and be as structured as possible. But if for some reason you're scheduled for a check ride and you're not feeling it that day, you're not feeling well, you're not feeling prepared, do not put yourself in a situation where you're taking a check ride that you're not ready to do. So just try and slow down, pump the brakes a little bit, make sure you're ready to go before you do those check rides. Because that can, down the road, that can hurt you. If you have a lot of check rides on your application, that can hurt you. Again, we don't have a definite cutoff, but we'll want to talk about all those check ride failures. So that's important, any training concerns. So just be very methodical about your training. And that's why a lot of structured programs are good for that. They can kind of make sure you're ready before you move to the next phase. And if you're not in one of those structured programs, force yourself to do that. Make sure you're building your training, really important. The other thing I would talk about is, seems real simple, logbooks, right? We look at a ton of logbooks, and I've been there. I did it. When I applied to Piedmont, I had to go back through all my old logbooks, and I ended up buying electronic and putting everything in, and it was just so much work to do that. So I would say now as you're starting out, really concentrate on your logbook. There are a lot of regulations that are difficult to read through, like what you can be logging when and how you log this. Just do your research, make sure your logbook is accurate, legal, find out exactly what you need to have in there to make it a legal logbook. Do that little bit of research and keep a very neat, organized logbook. Again, really important, those first impressions, right? If your application is missing all kinds of things and you have a sloppy logbook and you have a bunch of check ride failures, that's not gonna be a great start for you. So my little piece of advice to young aviators is really keep yourself organized, keep yourself ready, don't rush into anything. And these all apply to being a pilot too, right? I mean, when you're flying a jet, there's paperwork involved with that. You know, if you're making scribbles in the maintenance log, and you know that can be an issue. So these are traits that you want to develop now as a young aviator. You know, the organization skills and the being mentally prepared and staying focused, I guess, is what really what it boils down to. Stay focused on your goal, stay focused on your career, think long term, and do the little things now that'll help you down the road.
Sound advice. Well, thank you. I'm going to go ahead and exit out of this presentation for us. And I do have actually a couple of questions before we get to all of our viewer Q&A. And I know that this is something that you and I talked about last week, but I know that a lot of pilots are probably really interested. Can you just speak to the future of the cadet program and pilot hiring at Piedmont? I know that you said that that's a really great program, and that from the top down, your leadership really embraces it.
Yeah, I think that's the case with the cadet program. You know, we've had conversations of how much we're going to need the cadet program, and there's no signs of our cadet program going away at all. I mean, we as a company realize that this is all going to rebound. We know what the pilot shortage was coming into this, and our cadet program was a very important part of us meeting that pilot shortage. So it's all building blocks. So the future of the cadet program, I feel, is strong. It doesn't sound like I make sense when I say now is the time to get into it, but it really is. Although we're not really hiring into the cadet program right now, we're still doing interviews because we know that that's gonna change. We're gonna be hiring into that. Our current cadets will move on to first officers, and we're gonna be filling in that cadet program. You know, when it's clogged at the top, it kind of clogs it all the way down, and so that's where we're at right now. And obviously, the cadet program is kind of the beginning stages of it. So it obviously just filtered down. But the cadet program is very important to us. I think we all know that the hiring is going to come back. We're going to need pilots. You know, just because of the pandemic, people didn't stop retiring. So there are still pilots going out of the top that we're going to need to replace. So the cadet program is an important program, even through this pandemic. And so, again, I would encourage you to concentrate on these little things that will give you an opportunity to get into the cadet program. In the industry as a whole, I think you mentioned, I mean, I can't stress it enough that we'll be back. We're confident we'll be back. Hard to stomach a bump in the road when you're getting bumped, but we're going to come out the other side. We'll be in good shape.
Definitely. And how has being a wholly owned of American Airlines played into how Piedmont has maybe been affected by this pandemic, or just had additional support in terms of putting some of the structure there to really kind of deal with some of the changes that need to happen, sanitary measures, things as a result of dealing with this?
Yeah. So, being one of the wholly owns, we kind of go as American Airlines go. So a lot of their policies all apply to us. And so everything from the planning phase of how we're going to get through this, we're involved with even upper level in American. Obviously, we're owned by American. So it has really given us a great foundation through all this. Again, I know I mentioned that some of the other airlines that were doing contract flying, they've been in some financial problems during this, which makes sense. The contract flying is kind of the first to go when the belt gets tightened up a little bit. But being wholly owned by American, we're not going away. We go as American Airlines goes, and obviously American Airlines is a stable company even through times like this. So it really has benefited us for sure.
And guys, I'm gonna get to all of we'll get to your viewer questions now. I do want to show, because this is something that we've talked about, so I'm gonna put this in the chat. If you do wanna take a look at this, this is just the link to the TSA coronavirus daily update. So you can see in that that the numbers are increasing. We just exceeded a couple days of 600,000 passengers. So consumer confidence and the desire to travel at this point is being restored. So we're excited to see those uptick in numbers.
Great, thanks for putting that in there. I try and share that actually, so I appreciate you doing that. That's kind of a, when you can't sleep at night, wondering what industry you're getting into, just check those numbers. You can see the roll back, so we'll be okay.
Exactly. And so I'll get to our first viewer question now, and thank you for taking the time to share all of that presentation with us. Is there any age limitation to join the cadet program?
Any age limitation to join a cadet program? Well, obviously the only age requirement will be that you have you're legal to have your ATP. So as far as the cadet program, not really. It's just a matter of at what point you're going to be able to get your ATP minimums.
And then how have you adjusted, as far as the fleet that's flying right now during this COVID phase?
Yeah, we've been pretty fortunate. We've only had to park 5 out of our 60 jets, which is, in the big scheme of things, is not that much. And actually, we kind of took advantage of that and did some larger maintenance, scheduled maintenance on them during that time down. So we weren't affected too bad. Obviously, the number of our flights were down pretty substantially, but as far as parking planes, we really didn't do too bad through the whole thing.
And then has Piedmont, is there any consideration in the future of expanding your region a little bit more towards the West Coast?
Yeah, no real plans with that. I mean, that's way above my pay grade, so I don't know if I have my hand on the pulse of that necessarily. The American, there's 3 wholly owned, so the American family kind of has a plan as to who flies where. So our role right now is the East Coast. I don't want to say never on that. Just like we get a lot of questions, are we going to expand what type of jets we fly? We never say never on any of that stuff, because we kind of do what American needs from us. So to answer the question, no real plans that I could talk about right now as far as that goes, but stay tuned, I guess I would tell you. I'm not sure.
Sure. And Kane said, "Hey Brian, do you?" He has an offer for you guys. He received his job offer from Piedmont, but it was for April, so everything's been put on hold. So, do you have any advice for him while he's in the waiting process as far as classes to resume?
This is somebody we interviewed in the pool. Is that?
No, he sounds like he actually already has received his job offer from Piedmont, and so he was probably in the pool to start in April. So he's just looking for some advice.
Over timing, huh? My advice would be, we tell people, is just stay as proficient as you can. It's a little bit of a waiting game right now. If you've already received your offer, you're kind of in the best position you could be in. So I would encourage you to stay instrument proficient. If you can take a safety pilot out, even on a VFR day, and shoot some approaches, just make sure you have those jet charts down pretty cold. Make sure that's the one thing you can control going into training. I wouldn't spend a lot of time trying to read about the jet and learning to fly the jet. Our training is very structured, so we'll give you all that. You'll learn that in a very structured way. So I wouldn't spend too much time trying to get ahead of the game, but being a very instrument proficient pilot, when you get the training, will definitely help you. So whatever you can do to make that occur, that's how I would say it would most benefit you in the waiting game here.
And then David has a question. So for once you become a cadet now, is that or a contract that you're signing, or he wants to know, is that something that's an opportunity? Because obviously there's different types of cadet programs. Some are binding, some aren't. So can you just talk about when someone might be signing a contract versus having the offer?
Sure. So to join the cadet program, we do want you to sign a 2-year contract with Piedmont. And that's just to kind of assure us that our money is going to somebody that's still interested in Piedmont. If you do get out of the cadet program, or you leave Piedmont prior to that 2 years, it's kind of a prorated payback. So You know, if you stayed for almost 2 years, then you obviously would have to pay back a lot less. But you know, we do have a little bit of a commitment. It just makes business sense. You know, I mean, it's only fair that otherwise somebody could come in and take that $7,500 and say, you know what, I don't want to be a cadet anymore, and we'd have nothing to gain from that. So just to kind of be fair with everybody, we do want you to have an interest in Piedmont. 2 years, really, in the big scheme of things, is really nothing, especially when you're going to be looking at that flow pretty quickly. And if for some reason you think you're going to get in the cadet program and you're not sure you're going to want to stay, then, you know, I would encourage you, just don't spend that money and until you're sure that you want to do what you're doing. But, you know, it's a great opportunity and a lot of money up front.
And okay, so the next one looks like we have a couple questions about this. So maybe can we just go over again what portion for both the cadet program and off the street first officers of review of applications or interview is available right now while the full hiring is on pause?
What?
So with the cadet program, and if somebody was interested maybe a little bit closer and wanted to apply just as an off the street first officer, what they can get done right now, and then what the stopping point would be until hiring resumes.
Yeah, so we are doing virtual interviews. So we're doing
It's just
virtual interviews right now. So excuse me. So all of our applications are gained through airlineapps.com. So if you're meeting that cadet hour requirement or first officer requirement, in other words, you have your ATP minimums at this point, I would encourage you to apply. Airlineapps.com is where we get those. And we'll phone screen you. We'll get you all set up for an interview, and we'll interview you. And then we'll place your application in a pool. And once the hiring starts back up, we'll draw from that pool. We do have a separate cadet pool from the first officer pool, so it's not a one-on-one competition type thing. So what you can do in the meantime is just get your application together and get that filed. You can publish it to Piedmont, and then we'll reach out to you and get you rolling forward.
perfect. And then Tyrone would like to know when do you receive your American Airlines pilot number as far as seniority, when you begin at Piedmont or not till you flow?
Yeah, we spoke about that. So it's you have a separate Piedmont seniority number and American Airlines seniority number. So being at Piedmont, it's not gonna benefit you seniority wise. You have to get to American before you get an American Airlines seniority number. But again, we'll keep your Piedmont seniority number until you have one at American. So that's, you know, again, that goes back to that security. But and again, there's a lot that factor into that as far as unions and seniority and all that. So you'll get your American Airlines seniority number once you're at American.
And then he had a couple follow-up questions. So Tyrone, the benefits as far as healthcare benefits would be once you're a first officer.
Correct.
And then he was just wondering how many, as far as making himself a competitive applicant when a lot of people are going to be applying, how the competition is.
Well, you know, I think it's the little things I talked about. You know, you can stand out by having a great application, having great paperwork, not having a lot of training issues, and then having a great interview. And the interview consists of really get to know you. You know, again, when we do the get to know you phase, it's not only for us to get to know you, but we spend a lot of time making sure you know us. So we want to make sure that you want to be part of this Piedmont family and that it's the right fit for you. So as far as preparing for that, again, it goes right back to being instrument proficient. Our technical portion of it really, you know, we'll have you brief and approach and airport diagram, and JEP charts are important. I know they cost a little bit of extra money, but if you can practice on your JEP charts, however, you have to get a copy of JEP charts.
You're our student, you should have them.
Oh, yeah? Yeah, okay, great. Yeah, so yeah, you know the way it goes, so you've provided that. So that, yeah, that's huge. Being able to do those JEP charts, that'll really help you from a technical standpoint for sure.
And then this was Nick's question, which I know we talked about before we went live. So he would just like to know, as far as the transition and the flow to mainline, how the selection of base and aircraft are decided at American.
Yeah, again, so that's seniority based. So as we spoke about, you're not going to have an American Airlines seniority number until you get to American. So that's going to be based on your seniority in the class when you get there. Coming from Piedmont doesn't give you a leg up on seniority wise as far as that goes, because you need to have that seniority number in American.
And can you talk about comparatively with the all three, how the flow is at Piedmont because you are a smaller pilot group? Does that potentially make it a little bit faster, maybe compared to other options?
Yeah, it does. We always compare to, you're in the grocery store and American Airlines is in the parking lot waiting for you. So which line are you going to get in? You're going to get in the shortest line to get out there as quick as you can. So having such a small pilot group, and we do have a fair number of pilots at the top of the seniority of our seniority list that don't want to flow. They're in the training department. They're happy with their schedule. They're happy with their base, and so they've just decided that they want to stay at Piedmont. So you're going to pass right by that group of people. So that kind of causes us to have the fastest flows, that we have the smallest pilot group.
And can you speak to what that upgrade time was prior to obviously coronavirus?
Yeah, so we were upgrading our first officers to captain when they wanted to. Again, it's not a forced upgrade, in about 15 months, 15 to 18 months maybe. And really the product of that, what caused that was just the regulations. So in order for you to upgrade to a captain, you need 2,500 hours total time, and you need 1,000 hours in Part 121 time. So we do have some first officers that come in, they were first officers elsewhere, so they have that time relatively quickly. So a lot of it's going to kind of depend on your own individual, what you have, as far as experience. But you can get, if you came in with 121 time, you can typically get that in about 15 months. Again, once you have that, you'd be eligible to put in for upgrade at that point.
And then can you just walk us through where ground school and sim training are conducted and the CTP course?
Sure. So if you do not have your ATP CTP course, we'll send you for that. So that's a 8-day course in Dallas, and we'll pay for that. We'll provide your housing while you're there as well. So the only thing you'll be responsible for are your meals. So we'll put you up down there. You get your ATP CTP, and then once you come to training, once you start new hire, the new hire basic in-doc class is a week long, and that's at the American Airlines Training Center in Charlotte. So that's kind of on board. The first day we do onboarding with you. You get your nice new shiny iPad, which is the coolest part of the whole day. We go over some safety stuff with you, kind of the way the company works. The rest of that week, we go through the flight operations manual, which is kind of procedurally how Piedmont does things. Then we'll send you home, and you'll take your nice new shiny iPad, and you'll get to use it. And we'll give you a home study course, which is a basic systems overview, kind of get you prepared to fly the jet. Then you'll come back to Charlotte, the American Airlines Training Center there, and you'll do Systems Ground School, which is a 3-week-long course. And then from there, you may get another week or two off, and then we'll get you scheduled for sim time. The simulator time really isn't based on necessarily a set time. It's based on number of lessons. So it just kind of depends on, the sim schedule at that point. We do have sims in Charlotte and Atlanta, so there would be a chance that you would do some sim training in Atlanta, but most of it is conducted in Charlotte. And then from there, you'll be out on the line, and you'll get your operational experience, which is you basically ride with a check airman, and they check you off in the jet, and you'll do that for 45 hours out on the line. So that's the entire training footprint. Our training footprint takes about 3 to 4 months where you get from beginning to end. And again, that first day of new hires, when you get your seniority number, that's when you start getting paid. You're going to get your 75 flight hours a month. In training, you get half per diem, so you get 85 cents an hour while you're in training. And again, all during training, we put you up, we give you the hotel. And so it's just a matter of, and you'll obviously have benefits at that point. So.
And so we do have someone that's asking, do you think with everything that's going on right now, that having maybe somebody that already has an ATP prior to makes them prior to interviewing, makes them a more maybe competitive candidate at this point?
Yeah, so, it kind of only makes sense when we start drawing from that pool. We're going to look for experience and what you have. So, although we'll pay for that ATP if you don't have it, if you have an opportunity to get that, it's certainly, any experience is going to help you for sure. So, does it make you more competitive? To be honest with you, it probably does if you have that box checked. But again, we don't want you to think that you have to have that to be competitive at all, because, we will give you that.
Perfect. It sounds like this person actually had a follow-up that was asking about, so I think they already do, about any Part 121 experience match, if maybe they had previous experience at another regional as far as starting a little bit higher on like the yearly pay scale. Do you guys do that?
No, it's not based on experience. So it's based on, again, it's based on just your time at Piedmont. That 121 experience, as we go through this, would definitely help you be substantially more competitive for sure. So, I would encourage somebody like that to definitely apply. It's not going to help your time scale or your pay scale. The way it will benefit you though is the upgrade time. If you have that prior 121, you had that experience, so you may have an opportunity to upgrade a little bit faster.
Perfect. And I know we're getting to the end, so I'm just trying to get through a couple more if it's okay with you. So we just have a couple more questions to go. Oh, it looks like Roberta would just like to know where in upstate New York you fly.
Oh, okay. Just outside of Piedmont, in Sydney, New York. It's called. It's a little 135 operation. Lots of ice, lots of cloud, lots of weather up there, so it keeps me practiced.
And then Jordan just wanted to clarify as far as the bonuses for the cadet program, so that they can be used to pay off student loan debt while instructing. So when they maybe get that, when they get that 7,500, and then again, where the tier structure would be as far as the additional 5,000 that they can advance from the sign-on bonus.
Yeah, so that can be used pretty much for anything. If you can do reimbursement, and if you're instructing at that time, obviously you're still going to get paid to instruct. So that money can help with whatever loans you may have taken out to get to that point for sure.
Perfect. And then prior to the hiring pause, what was the average time that first officers were sitting on reserve?
So we had a very pre-pandemic, we had a very low reserve time. Our pods were typically just sitting a month reserve. You may hear other regionals where they were sitting years reserve. We really didn't have a lot of reserve time. Obviously, that's changed a little bit. Something else I would just point out is sometimes on these blogs, reserve seems like the evil thing that nobody wants to do. You can make reserve work for you. So, don't automatically think that reserve time is a bad thing. But again, pre-pandemic, we had very low reserve time, so give you an opportunity to get a lot of hours flying, gives you an opportunity to do that upgrade and build your time. So, again, as far as the career progression goes, it can help you. But obviously, when all this occurred, our reserve time did pick up because we were just doing less flights. But pre-pandemic, to answer the question, it was pretty low reserve time.
Perfect. Well, we got through all of our questions. I know we went a couple minutes over, but I just wanted to say thank you so much for joining us today and sharing all of your knowledge and expertise and answering all of the questions for our students. And hopefully you have some that are interested in this cadet. It sounds like you had someone earlier today that you were talking to about the cadet program. And for those of you that are lower time, you know that opportunity is there for the ambassador program also. So thank you for sharing with us those opportunities and insight and information on Piedmont. If anybody has more questions, you can go to piedmont.com, and then you can /pilots to view more information. And if anyone has questions as far as future webinars, you can go to atpflightschool.com/webinar. And I hope everyone has a wonderful week. Fly safe. And Brian, thank you so much for joining us today.